Hare Krishna. We continue reading from the book Beyond Birth and Death. So we're reading this chapter 2. That is the lesson. So what's the lesson of Bhagavad Gita? Na jayate mriyate va kadachin nayam bhutva bhavita va na bhuya ajo nitya shasvato yam purano na hanyate hanyamane sharire. For the soul there is never birth nor death, nor having once been, does he ever cease to be. He is unborn, eternal, ever existing, undying, and primeval. He is not slain where the body is slain. Gita 2.20. Krishna is telling to Arjuna about the soul, that the soul is eternal. Eternal. There's not that there was any time when we did not exist. And then it's not that in the future there is going to be at any moment that we will not exist. We are eternal. We are spiritual. Spiritual means eternal, ever existing, undying. We are spirit soul, and as such, we are eternal. Why then should we subject ourselves to birth and death? One who asks this question is to be considered intelligent. So if we are eternal, then why we are being born? Why we are dying? What's all this happening? Those who are Krishna conscious are very intelligent because they are not interested in gaining entrance to any planet where there is death. So we are understanding that even up to Brahmalok, there is death. Even Brahmaji has to die, although his life is phenomenally very long period of time. They will reject a long duration of life in order to attain a body like God's. So if we can get a body like Krishna, then why not work for it? Why work to get a material body? Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha. Sat means eternal, Chit means full of knowledge, and Ananda means full of pleasure. So Krishna, he is the reservoir of all pleasure. Krishna's form, the form that we see of Krishna is not material. It's not made up of earth, water, air, fire, ether. When Krishna is speaking to Arjuna, Bhagavad Gita, he's standing in front of Arjuna. The form that Arjuna is seeing is not a material form. It's not like our body made up of earth, water, air, fire, ether, mind, intelligence, false ego. No, Krishna's form is Satchidananda, eternal, full of knowledge, and full of pleasure. If we transfer ourselves from this body into the spiritual world, either to Krishna Lok, Krishna's planet, or any other spiritual planet, we will receive a similar Satchidananda body. So in this material world, to live in this material atmosphere, we are given this material body. And to live in the spiritual world, we will get a spiritual body. That body is Satchidananda. It's like Krishna's. Similar Satchidananda body. Thus, the aim of those who are in Krishna consciousness is different from those who are trying to promote themselves to higher planets within this material world. So we read that to live even on this earth planet, to live inside the water, the aquatics have different type of body. We live on land, so we have a different type of body. We cannot go and live in the water. Artificially, we may try to do it, but for how long? And so many gadgets will be required. Very troublesome. Not possible, not sustainable. And also if we take the fish out of the water, he's going to die, cannot sustain. Similarly, there's life on other planets. There's living entities on the sun planet, on the moon planet. Everyone has a particular body based on the atmosphere of that planet. So in the spiritual world, then we have a spiritual body. No need over there for a material body. So uh, that is a sign of intelligence, that let me try to go there where there is no birth, death, old age, disease. It's the spiritual world, it's the spiritual planet, there's no anxiety. That's where the soul can live in its pure form. That is the place where the souls live in their pure form, in the spiritual world. The self or soul of the individual is a minute spiritual spark. So we have to understand that we, the Jivatma, we are the soul, we are individual souls, but we are minute. Our size is tiny. Krishna, he is unlimited. He is Satchidananda Vigraha. We are also Satchidananda. The soul is also Satchidananda. But the size is completely different. Krishna is unlimited. We are minute. We are the soul, yes. But the size of the soul is given in the scriptures that it is 1/10,000 tip of the hair. 1/10,000 part of the tip of the hair. The perfection of yoga lies in the transferal of this spiritual spark to the top of the head. Having attained this, the yogi can transfer himself to any planet in the material world according to his desire. So the yogi who is following the meditation process, what he does is he brings the soul up to the top of the head. He's practiced this for a long time, and he's able to do this, and then he leaves the body from the top of the head, and then he can choose his destination. If the yogi is curious to know what the moon is like, he can transfer himself there. Or if he's interested in higher planets, he can transfer himself there, just as travelers go to New York, Canada, or other cities on the earth. Wherever one goes on earth, he finds the same visa and custom systems operating. And all the material planets, one can similarly see the principles of birth, old age, disease, and death operating. So here also we may go to New York, we may go to Canada, as Prabhupada is saying. Sure, there will be differences. The food will be different, the language will be different, people are different looking, clothes are different. But still, there is visa is required, laws have to be followed, there's customs, regulations are there. So similarly, we go to even the moon planet, sun planet, sure, it's different. The way the houses, the way there is more enjoyment, there's more opulence, there is more, because after all, it's a higher planet. There's more beauty, people are more beautiful, houses are more luxurious, food is more delicious, but yet the laws are there. Death, birth, death, old age, and disease are there. That we cannot get rid of. Om iti eka sharam brahma. At the point of death, the yogi can pronounce Om, Omkar, the concise form of transcendental sound vibration. If the yogi can vibrate this sound and at the same time remember Krishna or Vishnu, Mam Anusmaran, he attains the highest goal. So the yogi, he is vibrating Omkar. At the time of leaving his body, he's put the soul on the top of the head, and if he is vibrating Om and he can remember Krishna, then he can go to the Vaikuntha. He can go to the spiritual world. It is a process of yoga to concentrate the mind on Vishnu. This is the dharana, to fix the mind on Krishna. Samadhi is complete absorption in Krishna or Lord Vishnu. The impersonalists imagine some form of the Supreme Lord, but the personalists do not imagine this. They actually see. So it's not that the yogi is imagining that, oh, this one is God. Or he's putting up some form in his mind and imagining that this is God. No, the real yogi, he can actually see the Lord. Dhruv Maharaj was doing meditation. No, he could actually see the Lord in his heart. Kardama Muni, he was doing meditation for 10,000 years. Then he could see the Lord in the heart. So they were not imagining the Lord. The Lord, they are able to see him because he is there in the heart as Paramatma. So they are able to see him. They have qualified themselves to do it. The impersonalists, they actually see, yeah. Whether one imagines him or actually sees him, one has to concentrate his mind on the personal form of Krishna. So whatever we are doing, we are imagining or we are actually seeing, but see Krishna. Put our attention to the Sham Sundar form, two-handed, two-handed form, holding a flute, lotus, like eyes, peacock feather on the head. Ananya cheta satatam yomam smarati nityashaha tasyaham sulabha partha nitya yuktasya yoginaha. For one who remembers me without deviation, I am easy to obtain, O son of Pratha, because of his constant engagement in devotional service. Gita 8:14. So what happens if we can fix our mind on Krishna? Then we can go back to the spiritual world, be with Krishna, get a body like Krishna's, get a body, Sachidananda body like Krishna's. Krishna himself is saying that one who is remembering me without deviation, I am easy to obtain. He's constantly engaging in devotional service. Those who are satisfied with temporary life, temporary pleasure, and temporary facilities are not to be considered intelligent, at least not according to the Bhagavad Gita. According to the Gita, one whose brain substance is very small is interested in temporary things. So Krishna is saying, become intelligent. Don't try to seek pleasure in the material world. Go back home, back to Godhead. We are eternal, so why should we be interested in temporary things? No one wants a non-permanent situation. What we are doing is we are transmigrating from one body to another. We are saying, oh, I have this body, I'm not happy. Let me get another body. In that body, I will be happy. I'm on this planet, I'm not happy. Maybe if I go on another planet, I will be happy. But yet, all these are non-permanent situations because we are, after all, the soul. We are not supposed to be inside any material body. We are supposed to have a spiritual body. That is our permanent identity. We have a permanent identity. If we are living in an apartment and the landlord asks us to vacate, we are sorry. But we are not sorry if we move into a better apartment. It is our nature, because we are permanent, to want a permanent residence. We don't like things to change because the soul is eternal. Because soul is eternal. We don't wish to die because actually we are permanent. In actuality, we are permanent. Of course, we want things to change when things are not going our way. But once the things are going our way, then we want everything. Nothing should change. Because that's the nature of the soul. We don't want to die. Why is that? Because the soul is eternal. The soul never dies. Nor do we want to grow old or be diseased, because these are all external or non-permanent states. We really don't like to get old. We're like worried, oh my God, I'm getting older, what's happening? Or, oh, I have this disease, I have that disease. How much we struggle with it, how much we ponder over it. Why don't we want it? We are seeing everyone around us having the same thing. Yet when it comes to us, we suffer with it. Why? Because we are the soul. The soul never dies. The soul never becomes old. Although we are not meant to suffer from fever, sometimes fever comes and we have to take precautions and remedies to get well again. The fourfold miseries are like a fever, and they are all due to the material body. What are the fourfold miseries? Anyone? I think I put everyone to sleep now.
No. Is it old age, birth, death, old age, disease?
That's right. Thank you. Yeah. These are the real miseries. We are thinking, oh, I'm unhappy because somebody was rude to me today or whatever. Sure, that makes us unhappy, yes. But what is the real, why do we have to suffer all this? Is because we are in the body. The real misery is birth, death, old age, and disease. If somehow we can get out of the material body, we can escape the miseries that are integral with it. So as long as we have material body, it could be in any universe of the material sky, could be any position. As long as we have a material body, we will have these miseries. For the impersonalists to get out of this temporary body, Krishna here advises that they vibrate the syllable Om. In this way, they can be assured of transmigration into the spiritual world. However, although they may enter the spiritual world, they cannot enter into any of the planets there. They remain outside in the Brahma Jyoti. So by the process, so we were hearing now with the process of yoga, how the yogi can get the perfection. Then now with the process of Gyan, then the soul can reach to the spiritual world, but only to the spiritual sky. In the spiritual sky, there are many planets, but they remain outside in the Brahma Jyoti. Here, like the material sky, there are so many planets. We are inside the planet Earth. We are not floating in space. The planets are floating in space. Similarly, in the spiritual sky, the Brahma Jyoti, the Brahman is the spiritual sky, and there are many planets, spiritual planets floating there. So the Brahma Jyoti may be compared to the sunshine, and the spiritual planets may be compared to the sun itself. So the Brahma Jyoti is like the sunshine. Sunshine is coming from the sun planet. In the spiritual sky, the impersonalists remain in the effulgence of the Supreme Lord, the Brahma Jyoti. And so that is the destination of the Jnanis, to stay in the Brahma Jyoti, in the light, in the spiritual sky. Brahman is everywhere. It's very bright. There is happiness, of course. It's very, very bright there. It's unending. You see everywhere there is Brahman. And then the spirit soul, the living entity, remains there in the spiritual sky. The impersonalists are placed in the Brahma Jyoti as spiritual sparks, and in this way, the Brahma Jyoti is filled with spiritual sparks. That is what is meant by merging into the spiritual existence. It should not be considered that one merges into the Brahma Jyoti in the sense of becoming one with it. The individuality of the spiritual spark is retained. But because the impersonalist does not want to take a personal form, he's found as a spiritual spark in that effulgence. So because the goal of the Jnani is that he does not want to have a form. He wants to remain a spiritual spark. So he remains as a spiritual spark in the spiritual sky. And like that, in the spiritual sky, there are so many spiritual sparks. So many. It's filled with spiritual sparks. It
So
doesn't
the
mean
spiritual spark is the soul.
that's right.
Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we are the sparks, like
Right.
tiny,
So it's
minute, right?
filled with spiritual spark, the souls. So okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
The Brahmajyoti is filled with, like we see the sunshine. If we see the sunshine coming through the window, we'll see that tiny, tiny molecules also, like spirit.
Yes.
It's like sunshine, like
Right.
tiny, tiny, like that. So we are like that in uh, the spiritual sky. So it doesn't mean that it should not be considered that one merges into the Brahmajyoti in the sense of becoming one with it. The individuality of the spiritual spark is retained. So it doesn't mean that if one is reached the Brahmajyoti, he does not exist anymore. He still exists as a spiritual spark. The, the, the individuality is retained because the soul is eternal. The soul can never die. That's the point we have to understand. What does it mean eternal? Even if we are in the Brahmajyoti, we have that consciousness that I am an individual. It's not that I'm not anymore. I don't exist anymore now. No, but uh, the individuality is there, that I am an individual. So we may mistaken this as the false ego, but no, the false ego is thinking I'm the body. That we are thinking we are the body. So we have to give up the false ego. Understood. But once one gives up the false ego, then one thinks, yes, I'm a spirit soul. I'm a spirit soul. And then I have a part and parcel of Krishna. That way. So then, um, So just as sunshine is composed of so many atomic particles, so the Brahmajyoti is composed of so many spiritual sparks. However, as living entities, we want enjoyment. Being in itself is not enough. We want bliss, ananda, as well as being sat. In his entirety, the living entity is composed of three qualities: eternality, knowledge, and bliss. Those who enter impersonally into the Brahmajyoti can remain there for some time in full knowledge that they are now merged homogeneously with Brahman. But they cannot have that eternal ananda bliss because that part is wanting. So in the Brahmajyoti, one will have that knowledge that I am the soul, I am spiritual. So that knowledge is there, right? And eternal Sat is also there. But the Ananda part is not. The bliss is not there. And we are thinking that enjoyment is needed because of the body. No, it's with the soul because it's the nature of the soul. Sat Chit Ananda. That's all the scriptures, all the Vedas are saying that the soul is Sat Chit Ananda. So now, if the spiritual spark has reached the Brahmajyoti, the Sat is there, the Chit is there, but the Ananda is not there. So one may remain alone in a room for some time and may enjoy himself by reading a book or engaging in some thought, but it is not possible to remain in that room for years and years at a time, and certainly not for all eternity. So it's practical, you know. We can't be alone for too long. We need some interaction. We can see in the pandemic where there were lockdowns, people really suffered because of lack of this human interaction. It's needed. So that's the need of the soul. Therefore, for one who merges impersonally into the existence of the Supreme, there is every chance of falling down again into the material world in order to acquire some association. So even if we stay as spiritual sparks, everyone is staying as spiritual spark in the Brahmajyoti, but there is no spiritual form. So there is no interaction. Everyone is just sitting there. There's no talking. There's no nothing. There's just being there. I am being here. So the thought is, I am being here. I'm happy. Yes, I'm happy because there is no misery. And there is certain happiness, of course. So I'm happy and I'm being here. But what happens is, after a long, long time, the soul may come back to the material world. Why? Because the need is there for interaction. The need is there for association. This is the verdict of Srimad Bhagavatam. Astronauts may travel thousands and thousands of miles, but if they do not find rest on some planet, they have to return again to Earth. In any case, rest is required. In the impersonal form, rest is uncertain. Therefore, Srimad Bhagavatam says that even after so much endeavor, if the impersonalist enters into the spiritual world and acquires an impersonal form, he returns again into the material world because of neglecting to serve the Supreme Lord in love and devotion. So what does Bhagavatam say? Bhagavatam say one may go into the space. One may go to the space, but one needs to enter into one of the planets, cannot be just out in the space. Astronauts cannot be in the space all the time. They have to come to some planet or the other. So Bhagavatam is saying, even if one enters the Brahman, the Brahmajyoti, and stays as a spiritual spark, he still comes to the material world because he did not develop his love for Krishna, his devotion for Krishna. And that's the reason he could not enter into one of the Vaikuntha planets, was just able to remain in the sky. As long as we are here on earth, we must learn to practice to love and serve Krishna, the Supreme Lord, If we learn this, we can enter into those spiritual planets. So there are so many Vaikuntha planets. We cannot stay in the spiritual sky for permanently. It's not a permanent situation for the soul. The permanent situation is to enter into one of the Vaikuntha planets. And the only way we will be able to enter into the Vaikuntha planets is we have to revive our love for Krishna, our devotion to Krishna. And that we practice it here while we are here in this material world. If we learn this, we can enter into those spiritual planets. The impersonalist position in the spiritual world is non-permanent. For out of loneliness, he will attempt to acquire some association. So loneliness is not that for the body. Once the soul leaves the body, we can leave the dead body like that, and it's not going to feel lonely. So where is this loneliness coming from? It's with the soul. The soul needs association. So in the spiritual sky, in the Brahma Jyoti, the soul feels very alone. The soul feels there's no activity. What am I doing? I'm just sitting here. Although, yes, I'm happy, but I have no one to reciprocate with. Because he does not associate personally with the Supreme Lord, he has to return again to the world and associate with conditioned living entities there. So one who has entered the spiritual planet does not feel this loneliness. Why? Because in the spiritual planet, he's associating with Krishna, he's associating with the other living entities there, and there's so much activity and so much bliss. But if we are just sitting in the Brahman, because there is no association with Krishna, there is no activity, we again come to the material world here because we do not have information of the spiritual world and there is no devotee association. So then the only thing we know is the material world. So we come again to the material world. Is that
What
okay?
if the realization comes then in the Brahman, in the Brahma Jyoti, that then the soul, the spark can aspire, right, to enter,
But how will the realization come?
because it's like sitting, right, idle, doing nothing.
Yeah, but he's not heard of uh, the spiritual world. If he has never heard of the spiritual world, then what? And he knows only the material world, he will come to the material world. Until unless he gets some devotee association where he can hear about Krishna and engage in devotional service.
Okay,
But then devotees, we don't find them in the
right.
Brahmajyoti.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
It's not like it's gonna naturally evolve. Although we all have love of Krishna, it does not evolve naturally because we can see here also we have to get association with the devotee. And then it's revived, and then we practice to revive it. It's not naturally at one point of time that we revive it automatically, right? It's not a natural process of evolution, although it's there in all of us. We need that devotee association to begin the process, and then we have to engage in the process to revive the love. It's like, for example, I want to play in FIFA, right? And so I have to practice, I have to learn the game, I have to practice, and then I will be able to play in FIFA. But it's not that naturally just by me sitting there doing nothing, I will learn automatically the knowledge of FIFA will come to me. Although I have the ability to play the football.
like
Does
it
that make
has,
sense?
right? It has the knowledge. That's what, like, it says, right? It has knowledge, but the only thing missing is Ananda. So the
Yeah, but
knowledge is there. So
but the
can't
knowledge
it?
is only there that I am the soul. The
Okay.
knowledge, there is no knowledge of the spiritual world. There's no knowledge of Krishna. no knowledge of Supreme Lord.
Mm.
So the knowledge, that's why we read there was knowledge and ignorance. I forget where did we read.
Mm. Yeah.
So the knowledge is there, but it's not complete knowledge, it's partial. The knowledge is only up to the point that I am a spirit soul.
Mm. Okay.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So Shilpa, in the spiritual world also there are conditioned living entities?
No, no condition. Everyone is eternal, no conditioned.
Okay.
Conditioned living entities only in the material world,
Okay.
So they are not bound to karmas, right?
not bound to karma, not
Mm.
bound to karma at all, not bound by goodness, passion, ignorance.
Mm.
No. They are eternally liberated living entities. They are eternally liberated. In the material world, we are called Nitya Badha, eternally conditioned. In the spiritual world, they are called Nitya Mukta, eternally liberated. They are not bound by laws of karma or modes. Today is that okay? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, yes. Thank
Yeah.
you. Hare Krishna.
Today is Deepika's birthday.
Oh.
Yeah. Yes.
So let's wish her a very, very happy birthday.
Thank you.
Happy birthday, Deepika.
Happy
Thank
birthday,
you. Thank you
Deepika.
so much. Thank you so much.
Let's say the
Happy
Hare Krishna.
birthday. Happy birthday, Deepika.
Thank you. Hare Krishna, everyone. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Let's say for Deepika one time the Hare Krishna mantra together.
Yes.
Hare Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Krishna
Hare,
Krishna,
Hare
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 Hare.
Rama, Hare
Hare
Rama.
Rama, Hare
Rama,
Rama, Rama
Rama
Rama,
Rama,
Hare
Hare
Hare.
Hare.
Wishing
Hare.
you all the
Hare
best,
Hare.
Deepika.
Thank
Happy
you.
birthday, Deepika ji.
Thank you. Thank you. Hare Krishna,
अभी
everyone.
वैसे ऐसे बोलना चाहिए हरे कृष्णा टू यू हरे
Krishna to
दीपिका
To
जी
you.
you, Hare Krishna
Hare
to you,
Krishna to
Hare
you.
Krishna to you.
Krishna to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Wow, so blessed. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, everyone,
Thank you,
for
everyone.
listening
Hare
and
Krishna.
enjoying. And Shila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki
Jai.
jai.